right, hello everyone. My name is Austin Taylor, and today I'm going to be sharing Dabase, which is a launchpad that will be working with a layer 1 hash graph company called Unicorn Ultra, which is sponsoring the after party, but this is the launchpad that will be powering the ecosystem. So what it is, it's a Web3 protocol for fundraising and asset management. Now, if you're not familiar how a DAO investment platform works, is that people like you and I can pool our resources together, our funds, and invest in really exciting Web3 projects. Now, to talk about some of the big problems with investing in early stage Web3 blockchain projects is that, first, it can be hard to get access to these projects. Usually the fundraising is tailored towards VCs, accredited investors. Another big problem is that these projects, which was a big problem in the last bull run, is these projects will put out a pitch deck, they will raise ridiculous amounts of money, and then they don't have an MVP, they don't have any necessary documentation so investors can do the proper due diligence, and in some cases we don't even know anything about the founding team. And so finally, the third problem is that investing in this space is extremely high risk. I'm sure we've all made poor investment decisions in this space. I know I have. It's extremely high risk, there's no transparency, and project creators are not always held accountable for the funds. Now, to talk about how Dabase works and how it's going to solve this problem. So let's say a project wants to raise $50,000, some initial capital to get the project going. They will put together a list of milestones. So let's say they need $15,000 for development, $5,000 for marketing, and so on. And they'll have all the necessary documentation that investors will want to see. If the investors using the DAO like this, they will pool their resources together. These funds will sit in escrow, and then the first set of funds will come down to the project to complete their milestone within a predetermined time period. Once that time period's up, the people who invested in the project will be able to decide, does this meet our expectations, yes or no? If it does, then the next set of funds will be automatically released to the project to continue the development. If not, then the project funds will be returned to the investors. So to summarize that solution, what it does is minimizes risk for investors, holds project creators accountable, and increases transparency in the Web3 and blockchain space for the individual investors such as you and I. So right now, as you may know, DAOs essentially run themselves. So in the very early stages, how we are generating revenue is we have one stream, which we take 10% of the dispersed funds. Now, as we scale and we get on more projects, we're operating out of Vietnam, which has one of the biggest tech talent in Asia. So we will implement a social aspect which will operate as Fiverr, so these very early stage projects can get access to the freelance talent that's available in Vietnam. So let's touch a little bit on the market size. Now, we are in a down market right now, but approximately $8.5 billion is the total treasury of DAOs, and in early 2021, that was less than $1 billion. Now, at the peak of Web3 NFT trading, the volume reached 25 billion, and as of late 2022, more than 10,000 projects have benefited from this strategy of fundraising. So taking a look at the competition, there's some big players in this space already that are doing this method of fundraising and service. Now, what sets Dabase apart from these other big names is that we satisfy the demands and requirements not only from the startup projects, but from investors as well. And here's to touch base on some of our partners. What these partners do is that they bring a lot of users to the platform, as well as provide strategic resources for the startups fundraising via the Dabase to increase their chances of success. Thank you.
Hi, thanks a lot. Maybe I can ask a couple of questions. If I had to split your two use cases, right? First was enabling people who might not be accredited investors to invest smaller portions of money into a startup. Why do you need blockchain for that? I mean, you have a whole bunch of solutions out there currently existing, like Funnel, Moonfair, a whole bunch of other guys who don't use blockchain and can achieve the same thing. That's part number one. Second question, very quickly, is in your second use case, which you said, depending on certain deliverables, money will keep flowing in. I mean, we've invested in a whole bunch of startups, and I can honestly tell you, probably pretty much none of them actually follow through with their budget, right? And if the life of the startup always dependent on each and every single granular metric requiring money to be deposited, I don't think this early stage startup business can work. So would love to understand that.
Sure. To address your first point, if someone from this country wants to invest in projects that are operating globally or in other countries, it can be very, very hard to do that in the traditional fashion. But when you have the Web3 component and you're doing it through a decentralized organization, it takes away that barrier of someone that wants to get their capital in other markets and other industries. So, and then for the second point, when these project creators are submitting their proposal for the current investors to review, in the proposal they will put in their challenges, what they've achieved. If they need to extend the time period, they can add that proposal as well. So it's extremely flexible of how these funds can be distributed and released to the projects.
Thanks for the presentation. Maybe a quick question on the investors when I assume you deal with a lot of small investors, a large volume of investors. So how do you ensure that they actually show up and vote and release the milestones? Is that potentially a challenge? That many investors would rather be passive investors, or so how do you think about that?
Sure. So when the proposal is ready for the next milestone to be voted and for funds to release, there will be a time limit for these investors, the people to come in and vote. And it will just take the majority of the people that did participate in the voting. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Last question? All right. So my question is that the best voters are the ones who is going to use like the consumers. That's why it's easier to vote. So what are the incentives that they would vote?
The incentive for them to vote?
Yes.
Yeah, so
does the DAO allow them to track, like, why would this work? Because all they are doing is validator as well, right?
I think I'll try to answer your question. I think I understand. So if you deploy your own money into something, you want a return. You're not just going to put it away and forget about it. So the advantage is that when someone invests their money, they're going to keep tracking. And for these projects to have the funds continue flowing for their development, these investors are going to want to see the documentation come out as they go through development. So for example, when a VC is looking at a fund, they want to see the financial statements, they want to see the business model, they want to see what the team is about, if they have the capability of executing this. These documentations, if it's a very, very early project where they just need that initial capital, they're not going to have all this documentation ready right away. But as they scale and the more funding comes in, then they have the traction and the resources to put together this necessary documentation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but sorry, maybe my question was like, how do you qualify the voters?
Qualify the people participating?
Yes, that's right.
Right. Right now, we do not have any qualification for that. So to give you a bit more background, Dabase was previously launched in early 2022 at the tail end of the bull market. And so now that this product and service is still in demand, but the market has shifted a little bit. So the layer one, Unicorn Ultra, that we basically took this team and we're going to be leveraging this launchpad specifically for that layer one. And it is multi-chain, so other projects from other chains can come in as well. So ultimately, we're looking for bringing in a big volume of people that are interested in investing in these startup projects. And the big advantage for us is that we have access to the Vietnamese market, which 22% of the population holds cryptocurrency. And it's a wide open market, so the market share is up for grabs. So we are more focused right now on bringing in the volume. Yeah. All right, thank you.